God said stop, not slow down, not pause, and come back when things quiet down. Stop, right now, completely. I know you are in the middle of something. Maybe your mind is still half in a conversation that happened this morning, or half in a worry you have been carrying for days. Maybe you have been moving so fast for so long that stillness itself feels unfamiliar. But right now, in this moment, God is asking you to put all of that down, because what He is about to warn you about cannot wait. I want you to notice something before we go any further. There is a feeling you have been carrying recently. It is not quite fear, it is not quite excitement. It lives somewhere in the center of your chest, a low and quiet hum that says something is close, something is shifting, something about your life is standing at the edge of a change you can feel, but cannot fully see yet. That feeling is not your imagination. That is God already beginning to speak. And because what is in this message matters too much for you to leave before it is finished, I want to tell you quickly what you are going to receive today. By the time this is over, you will understand exactly what the warning is, what has been quietly interfering with your ability to hear God clearly, who you actually are in this season, and what the restoration looks like. All of it is here. Stay until the end. What comes in the final portion of this message may be the thing you have needed most. Now let me continue. You have been feeling signs recently, signs you noticed but could not fully name, moments of strange clarity in the middle of otherwise difficult days, a recurring thought that keeps surfacing about who you are supposed to be and what you are supposed to do, a gravitational pull towards stillness that does not match how busy your life actually is, relationships that have been quietly falling away, not with drama, not with conflict, just a growing distance, as if something invisible is reorganizing the connections around you. And underneath all of it, a restlessness, not the kind that comes from boredom, a holy kind of restlessness, the kind that does not quiet down no matter what you fill the space with. If even 3 of those are true for you right now, you are in exactly the right place. But here is what I want to tell you about those signs. Most people in this season read them wrong. They read the isolation as rejection. They read the restlessness as anxiety. They read the quiet falling away of old connections as abandonment. And in reading them wrong, they miss what those signs are actually saying. There was a man standing in a field one ordinary day, tending his flock, when something unusual caught his eye. A bush was burning, and it was not being consumed. He noticed it. And then, because he was in a hurry, because there was work to do, and the day was already moving, he almost kept walking. But something in him turned back. He stopped. He drew closer. And it was in that turning back, that single choice to stop and approach what he had noticed, that the most significant conversation of his life began. The warning God had for Moses was not a correction, it was a commission. And the signs you have been noticing, the ones you almost kept walking past, they are not random. They are coordinates, precise, intentional coordinates placed along your path by a Father who has never once lost track of where you are. But there is something else I need to tell you. Something about why those coordinates have felt muffled lately, why the signal has been harder to read than it once was. And this is the part of the warning that God has been urgently trying to get to you. Think back to when you were a child. There was a quality to how you moved through the world then that was different from now. You learned quickly, almost without effort. Your creativity had no ceiling. You felt things deeply. Your intuition was sharp and immediate, arriving in your body before your mind had time to catch up. There were moments when you simply knew things. You had dreams that felt more real than waking, a sensitivity to the world around you that was both a gift and, at times, almost too much to carry. That was not a phase. That was your God-given design, functioning exactly as it was meant to function. Scientists who study the human brain have identified a specific brainwave that is active during states of deep perception, heightened creativity, and peak intuition. They call it the gamma wave. And what is remarkable is that children show consistently high levels of this brainwave. Their minds are literally operating on the frequency of wonder, of deep connection, of receiving. But here is what the research has found. Starting around age 7, gamma levels in most people begin to decline. Not because anything is broken, not because of failure or sin, but because of the world we are gradually asked to live inside. The relentless pace, the education systems that reward compliance and slowly penalize sensitivity. An adult world that teaches you to distrust what you feel and only believe what you can prove. Researchers have named this the decline effect, and it is one of the most consistent patterns across decades of neuroscience data. Your God-given receiver did not break, it was gradually turned down. And I want you to sit with something for a moment. There are systems in this world that benefit from a population that cannot hear clearly. An alert, discerning, spirit-sensitive person is harder to keep small. A chosen one, who is operating with their God-given perception fully active, is harder to distract, harder to deceive, harder to hold back from what they were built for. The decline effect did not happen to you in a vacuum. Esther lived inside a palace that was designed to make her forget who she actually was. Everything around her worked to pull her into comfort and compliance, into forgetting that she was a daughter of a different king. And then a voice broke through. For such a time as this. That one sentence cracked the palace open. It reminded her of what had never actually left. The warning God is sending you today is that same kind of moment. Not a verdict, a reminder. Now let me tell you what this looks like in your actual life right now. When the gamma wave is suppressed, prayer can feel hollow. You can speak the words, but they seem to hit a ceiling. Your ability to sit in stillness and receive feels impaired. Intuition that once was sharp becomes static. Decisions grow clouded because you cannot hear the deeper guidance clearly enough to trust it. Worship feels like going through motions. You read scripture, but the aliveness you once felt seems out of reach. This is not God withdrawing from you. This is a receiver with the volume turned down. Think of a GPS system in a car. The satellite is always broadcasting. The signal is constant and precise. But if the device itself has been muted, if something in the unit is not functioning at full capacity, you will not hear the directions, even though they are being sent perfectly. You might miss the turn. You might take the long way around, not because the guidance stopped, but because the receiver stopped transmitting it clearly. That is what has happened to your spiritual sensitivity. The signal never stopped. You just have not been able to hear it the way you were designed to. And when I began to understand this, I started looking for answers that went beyond only praying harder or sitting in longer silence. Because if this is partly a physiological issue, it may require a physiological approach alongside the spiritual one. I came across the work of a neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake. 34 years of research. Studies backed by institutions including MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, Berkeley, Columbia University, and the Einstein Center in Berlin. What Dr. Lake and his colleagues found was this. The gamma brainwave can be deliberately reactivated through a process called brain entrainment, where specific audio frequencies guide the brain back into the gamma range. The brain naturally synchronizes with what it hears, and when it does, the gamma wave begins to return. Over 18,000 people have now used what came out of that research. To access this kind of gamma reactivation the traditional way, you would need sessions with a biofeedback therapist. Those run around $300 per hour. Or you could purchase the professional home equipment, which costs close to $7,000. For most people, neither of those options is realistic. Dr. Lake took his full body of research and compressed it into a single 7-minute audio track. You put on headphones, you close your eyes, you listen. That is it. No meditation technique, no mantra, nothing to memorize or practice. You simply let the audio do what it was designed to do, which is guide your brain gently back to the frequency it was always meant to operate on. He called it the Genius Song. The original price for this technology was $49, less than a single biofeedback session. But because Dr. Lake wanted this in the hands of the people who genuinely needed it, not only those who could afford a therapist, the price for those watching this video specifically has been brought down to $39. That price is not available on Amazon. It is not available anywhere else. It is accessible only through the link I have placed in the description and the pinned comment of this video. And what you receive is not only the 7-minute track. Included at no additional cost are 4 bonuses. The first is Genius Child, an audio track designed specifically to help children activate their natural focus and confidence. The second is the original book that inspired the film The Secret, the real financial version, the one with actual substance behind it. That book sells for $20 on Amazon, and it is included here for free. The third is a guided visualization that walks you through 4 areas of your life: money, love, health, and deep happiness. And the fourth is a printed infographic of the 5 most important habits for building the future you were designed for. Something you can put somewhere you will see every day. Everything comes with a complete money-back guarantee. No limits on how many times you use it before asking for that refund. You carry no risk. I need to say this clearly because it matters. There are counterfeit versions of this technology circulating online, sites that use the name but have not embedded the actual brain entrainment frequencies. Those products are nothing more than ordinary audio. They will not do what this does. The only way to ensure you are receiving the genuine technology, the full set of bonuses, and the money-back guarantee is through the link in the description and the pinned comment below. Do not search for this on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere else. If you want to explore this 7-minute ritual, the link is waiting for you there. Now let me tell you why God is bringing this warning to you in this specific season. Because there is something this message is building toward, and we are almost there. You are not standing at a random point in your life right now. You are standing at a threshold, not a metaphorical one. A real, specific threshold. And I know this because of the pattern. The restlessness, the reorganization of relationships, the pull toward stillness, the persistent sense that something is being assembled just out of view. These are the signs of a season that exists just before something. There are 4 specific markers of that kind of season. Clarity arrives in unexpected moments, not always during prayer, sometimes while you are in the car or in the middle of an ordinary task, a sudden knowing that cuts through everything else. There is a pull towards solitude that does not feel lonely, but necessary, as if something needs space to land. There is the growing sense that pieces are being moved by hands you cannot watch directly, like a plan being constructed just beyond what your eyes can reach, and time feels different. Not faster or slower exactly, but more weighted, as if each day carries something that ordinary days do not. God does not issue this kind of warning for small transitions. He issues it when what is coming next is so significant that entering it without this conversation would cost you more than you can afford to lose. And just like Esther, positioned in that palace for years she did not fully understand, prepared through a process that looked nothing like her calling, arriving at the exact moment when the warning became the commission. What God is building around your life right now is not ordinary. And the biggest revelation in this message is not about what is coming at you. It is about what has always been inside you. That is where we are going next. I want to ask you something before we go any further into this. What if the warning was not primarily about a danger outside of you? What if the thing God could not wait to tell you, the thing He stopped you for, the thing that could not hold off another day, was not a prediction about circumstances or a heads up about something approaching from the outside? What if it was a revelation about something that has always been inside you, something that has been present your entire life, something the interference has been quietly covering? Here is the truth I believe God has been trying to reach you with. He only warns those he has invested in. Think about that for a moment. You do not issue an urgent personal warning to someone you have no relationship with. You do not stop your day, plant signs along someone's path, interrupt their motion, bring them to a moment of stillness for a stranger. A warning from God is not a threat. It is evidence of something. It is proof of relationship. It is what a father does when his child is about to walk past something extraordinary without recognizing it. God does not warn the passive. He does not interrupt the lives of people moving through the world with no assignment. He warns the ones carrying something he intends to use. And here is the revelation this entire message has been building toward. The fact that you received this warning, that something in you responded to it, that you stopped when everything around you was telling you to keep moving, that is not a personality trait. That is not a lucky coincidence. That is a God-given sensitivity that is already active inside you, doing exactly what it was designed to do. You have been worried that you cannot hear clearly enough. You have wondered if you are imagining the signs, projecting meaning onto ordinary moments, constructing something out of nothing. But consider this. A person with no spiritual sensitivity does not worry about whether they are spiritually sensitive. A person with no calling does not feel the persistent, returning weight of one. The very fact that these questions live inside you, the very fact that something in you said yes when you found this message, that is the confirmation you have been waiting for. David was anointed in a field, not in a palace, not after the victory was won, not after the circumstances changed to match the promise. He was anointed before any of it. The anointing was not a reward for what he had already done. It was a declaration of what he already was, in a field, with no audience, in a season that looked like nothing. Your anointing is not waiting on your circumstances to confirm it. It is already present. It has always been present. The warning was sent to someone who carries this, and I want to tell you who that someone is. There are 3 things I want to name that you carry, not as roles to perform or titles to adopt, as descriptions of what is already in you, whether you have had language for it or not. The first is this: you are a seer. And I do not mean that in a dramatic or unusual way. I mean that you perceive things other people walk right past. You read rooms before a word is spoken. You sense shifts in people before they have shown you anything. You pick up on things others call irrelevant, and then weeks later those things turn out to be the whole story. You have been told most of your life that you feel too much, that you are too sensitive, that you read too deeply into things. That was not a flaw being named. That was a gift being misunderstood by people who did not carry what you carry. The second thing is this: you are a spiritual warrior. Not because you do not feel pain, not because you are hard or unshakable in the way the world celebrates, but because you do not collapse under the weight of what you carry. You have been through seasons that should have ended your faith, seasons that should have closed you permanently, seasons where the silence was so long and so complete that continuing to believe made no logical sense. And you are still here, still standing, still reaching. That is not stubbornness. That is a God-built resilience that has been formed specifically in the hardest places, because warriors are not made in comfortable rooms. And the third: you are a truth carrier. You cannot live comfortably in the shallow version of things. When something is wrong, you feel it in your body before you can put words to it. You cannot pretend, not convincingly, not for long, not without something inside you pushing back. You have been around people who were satisfied with the surface, and you could not stay satisfied there, and you spent years wondering if something was wrong with you for not being able to. Nothing was wrong with you. You were made to carry truth and to bring it wherever you go, into your family, into your relationships, into every space you walk into. That is not a critical spirit. That is a God-given calibration for discernment in a world that needs it. These are not things you need to become. They are what you already are. The interference was covering them. The warning is uncovering them. Now, because you carry these things, And because you are in this threshold season, there is something practical I want to give you for the days that are coming. The first thing is this. One of the most important skills for someone at your level of sensitivity is learning to distinguish between a signal that comes from God and a signal that comes from fear or from the noise of your own unresolved worry. And here is a simple way to tell the difference. When something is from God, there is a calm underneath it, even if the message is urgent. It repeats without forcing itself. It does not create chaos in you. It aligns with what you already know to be true about your calling, even when you cannot see the full picture yet. When something is coming from fear, it is frantic. It demands immediate action. It creates confusion and tries to cut you off from other sources of guidance. You do not have to move to practice this. Right now, wherever you are, bring to mind something you have been uncertain about, something that has been sitting quietly in the background of your recent days. Now notice what happens in your chest, not what your mind says about it, what your body says. Is there a quiet settling, a sense that something could open? Or is there a contraction, a pulling in, a tightening? Your body knows the difference between alignment and avoidance. It was designed to know. Trust what it tells you. The second thing, set your intention the way a receiver sets its frequency. Every morning, before the day starts to move, say this in your mind as a declaration of your posture for that day. I am positioned. I am open. What is mine will find me. You are not creating anything with those words. You are not performing a ritual. You are simply orienting yourself toward the signal that has been broadcasting all along and turning your capacity to receive up a little higher. And the third, in this season, be a good steward of what you have just opened. There are things that will drain the frequency you are now operating on. Not necessarily bad things, just things that fill the space where the signal comes through. Noise without purpose. Conversations that consistently argue against your calling and leave you smaller than you arrived. Hours of passive consumption that leave you feeling empty rather than fed. Protect the space. That is not isolation. That is taking care of what God gave you to use. Now, I want to talk to you about the one thing that could still get between you and everything this message was meant to give you. And I want to say this carefully, because I do not want to add anything more to what you are already carrying. The obstacle is doubt. Not doubt in God, doubt in yourself. It sounds like this. Maybe this does not actually apply to me. Maybe I am reading too much into things again. Maybe the people who get to experience what this message is describing are further along than I am, more together, more worthy, more clearly called. Maybe I have made too many mistakes to be the person this warning was sent to. I understand that voice, deeply. You have believed before and been disappointed. You have reached for something and had your hand come back empty. You have prayed through seasons of silence long enough that your heart learned to protect itself. Of course it did. That is what hearts do when they have been hurt. But here is what I need you to hear. Moses said, "Who am I?" And God said, "I am." The calling was never about Moses' qualification. It was about God's intention. And God's intention was not cancelled by Moses' uncertainty. It was not delayed by his doubt. It was not conditional on him having it all figured out before he said yes. You are not required to fully trust your own ability to perceive correctly right now. You are only required to trust that God is clear and that He chose, in full knowledge of where you are and what you have been through, to send this warning to you today. Not to someone more qualified. Not to someone with a cleaner record or a steadier faith. To you. In the middle of your unfinished story, in the middle of your doubt, in the middle of a Tuesday that you thought was just another ordinary day. You do not need to have it all together to receive this. You only need to stop running long enough to hear it. And you did. You stopped. You are still here. That is not nothing. I want to take a moment now, before we close, and I want to sit here with you, because you deserve that, not a rush to the ending. You have been carrying something heavy for a long time, and you have carried it with far more grace than you have ever given yourself credit for. You have stayed open when you had every reason to close. You have kept believing in the in-between seasons when the evidence was thin and the silence was long and the timeline made no sense. You kept showing up anyway. God sees that. He has always seen it. And the warning He sent you today was not to pile more weight onto what you are holding. It was to tell you that what you have been holding has been building something inside you that this next season is going to need. The interference does not define your story. The decline effect was never the final word on your sensitivity or your calling. The receiver is coming back online. And what you are about to step into in this new season, the clarity, the direction, the relationships that reflect who you actually are, the breakthrough in the places that have been dry for years, it requires exactly the version of you that this message has been speaking to. You are the seer who has been learning to trust what you see. You are the warrior who has not been broken by what you have faced. You are the truth carrier, standing at the threshold of a season that needs exactly what you carry. Let me speak something over you before you go. Let this land wherever in you it needs to land. May the receiver within you, the one that was built to hear beyond the surface of things, be fully restored in this season. May the clarity that has felt out of reach begin to return, not all at once, but steadily, quietly, in the days immediately ahead. May the doubt that has accumulated over seasons of waiting begin to loosen its hold, just enough for you to take the next step. May the people around you begin to recognize what God has always known about you. And may the warning you receive today become the turning point you look back on and say, "That was the day I finally stopped and let myself be found." God said stop, and you did. That is not a small thing. That is the beginning of everything.